Welcome to 5 Points Blues presentation of Back to the Basics. Everything you wanted to know about Cowboys football, but were too afraid to ask. Here are your hosts, Nikki Harrison and Christy Scales.
Welcome, welcome back to the Basics. We are back. We took a little hiatus last week, but we're back. I'm Nikki Harrison here with Christy Scales, and we have a guest, Taylor Greer. You are one of the awesome members of the Dallas Cowboys Rhythm and Blue Dancers.
Yes.
Thank you for coming. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and the reason why we wanted Taylor to be on the show today is because every member of the Cowboys family is special.
Absolutely.
But we want to share your story during this holiday season, Taylor, because it's so inspiring. Obviously, you have to be talented and a great dancer to be on the Rhythm and Blues team. It's hard enough to make the squad, but when you are profoundly deaf and unable to hear the music without the help of a cochlear implant. Your story is inspiring. Please tell the rest of the Cowboys family, Cowboys Nation that's with us today, you know, how you got to be here and a member of the Dallas Cowboys family.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And yes, my story is a long one, but it's a fun one and a great. It's been a great lifetime. I'm from Garland, Texas, and I'm born and raised there. And around I was born, and around 2.5 years, my parents had caught me at a profoundly hearing loss child. And at the time, they decided, with my communication skills, they put me in deaf school. And about first grade, I was put into mainstream school because they thought that I could do it. And throughout my life, I've always been mainstreamed. And I actually started dancing, and my parents were a little scared. They're like, okay, we're so excited that my daughter's, trying to, do the dance life, but they were worried about the hearing side. And what I realized when I started dancing, I realized that dancing and not being able to hear was a platform for me to prove that I was no different and that I could do it, and that, and it shaped me to who I am today. And so I graduated from high school, and I went to join the Rangerettes Kilgore for my first 2 years of school.
Which is amazing because that's just the tops.
That's right.
Of drill team.
Yes,
really, you can't get higher than that, really.
Yeah, and I had a great 2 years there, and then I had the hopes and dreams of moving to California, and I went to Chapman University in Orange County and graduated with my BFA, and then decided to move up to LA for 2.5 years to do my dance training and just do a lot of other fun stuff there. And then last year I moved back, and my first year back in Dallas, the Rhythm and Blue had caught my eye, and I knew that I wanted to keep performing, and here I am.
That's awesome. And so you're a rookie on the Rhythm and Blue. So what has your experience been like this first year?
My first year, it's been incredible. It's definitely a different experience than anything I've ever had. It's not only has challenged me to be a better dancer, but the community and the organization is absolutely amazing. Not only are we push ourselves as dancers, but we're also pushed to be all around well-being human beings. Thanks to Jenny Durbin Smith, that she has absolutely been an amazing director.
She is amazing.
Yeah.
And let's for the folks that do not get to come to AT&T Stadium on game day, that don't get to see the Rhythm and Blue dancers perform, can you tell us how it's different from the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders? Obviously, you have guys that are part of the Rhythm and Blues, but it's more hip hop and kind of funk. It's definitely a different style.
Well, I think what's unique about the Dallas Cowboys Rhythm and Blue dancers, we bring a different energy to the crowd, and we because hip hop is a very popular genre nowadays. We just are always hyped up and always dancing, and we do a lot of intricate hip-hop moves. And not only do we have girls, but we also have guys, so we're getting to do really cool stunts, and and I think we choose very popular dance moves that everyone can enjoy with us. And so it's just a very, very different dance style, but everyone enjoys watching it. Well, you mentioned that you enjoy using this as a platform to share your story. Mm-hmm. And so if we can, we'd like to go more into that. As you say, you're from Garland, Texas. And so as a child, you had
hearing aids, but at what age did you receive the cochlear implant?
Yes.
And what are some of the what did you hear when it first turned it on?
It's so interesting. It really is completely two different worlds when it's the hearing aids and the cochlear. And what happened was, I was born with with the hearing impairment, and I was legally deaf. But the hearing aids no longer started working when the 6th grade, and I profoundly lost all of my hearing. So at that point, hearing aids no longer worked for me. So of course, after doctor, we've heard about the cochlear implant, and we're very hesitant. And then I decided in that point to get the cochlear on the right side of my right ear, obviously. And so funny, when they first turned it on, I had realized that I've been missing so many sounds in my life, because the difference between hearing aids and cochlear, with hearing aids, I wasn't hearing all the sounds. But with the cochlear, I got to hear almost every sound that a human ear gets to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Like what? What would be an example?
So, perfect example, and it's such a funny story told today, and my parents laugh about it every day. So when they turned on the cochlear implant, the first thing I heard was someone eating a bag of potato chips. And the sound of crumbling, why would any human being want to hear the sound of crumbling? And it was so loud, and all I could think of was, oh my gosh, I've never heard that before. And so that carried on into music for me, whereas, there were some beats that I didn't hear in the music and I could hear for the first time. And so that made me even more excited about being a dancer. And right now, I have the right side. I'm supposed to get the left side done.
Okay.
But I can only hear in my right side.
I was going to ask, can you get both? So do you have to do them at separate times, or?
You can actually get both at the same time. And because back in the day it was very, very new, it was, it was kind of a conscious step to take. But with that being said, because it changed my life and it opened so many doors for me, I most likely will probably get the left side done.
Gotcha.
So in terms of music, and let's say before the implant and then after, so could you feel vibrations or bass or and now, do you? There's such a spectrum of sound within music. So
well, so the story that I always share with people is, back in my dance competition days, I multiple times, the cochlear, I have a hard time keeping it on sometimes when I dance, and I do various things by like doing double-sided tape and stuff. Well, one of the dances, I was doing a solo out on the gym, and not millions, but hundreds of people were there, and it was not staying on. So I decided to take off my cochlear, and I threw it to the left, where my poor father had seen me throw it. And of course, these cochlears, they're a little expensive on the side. And so you can see his face, he's terrified, right? But in that moment, because the music was so loud enough, I could actually feel the vibrations on the floor. And I was a little scared, but that is how I got to finish my solo dance.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, before we go any further, I want to give our number out. So if anyone has any questions,
yes, absolutely,
please give us a call. We're at 214-872-2102. If you have any questions for Taylor, for Christy, for me, give us a call.
Yeah, and I'd like to take this opportunity to share a story of a mutual friend,
absolutely,
Taylor's and mine, and it has to do with something. And we had actually gotten a tweet on this question a couple weeks ago, and had not had a chance to address it on the podcast. But it was in the over 25 years that you've been with the Cowboys, Christy. What's your favorite story? And it's actually 27 seasons that I've been with the Cowboys, and so that was 3 Super Bowls in the 90s, and I mean just some really awesome things. And as the sideline reporter, you get to interview celebrities and political leaders, people who are on the sideline. But my very favorite story is 2007, a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader named Christina Murphy tried out. And she was only a cheerleader for 1 year, but a girl from Grand Prairie and who went to Kilgore.
Yes.
And was attending college. She's profoundly deaf. And she did not have a cochlear implant at the time. And she had not heard music, nor the sound of her voice or her mother's or her father's voice. And she auditioned, and when she made a beautiful girl and a great dancer, and when she made the squad, she deserved it. To be honest, I know that in the first round I didn't realize that she was hearing impaired. And it was not a sympathy vote to get to the finals. She absolutely deserved to be on that squad. And she was only on the squad for one season because she transferred the next year up to Rochester, New York, where the university there does a lot for hearing impaired students. And you are a friend of Christina's.
Yes, we actually met a while back, and what was so awesome about the dance community is it's a small one. And she's about 3 to 4 years older than me, and she was in the Rangerettes. And before I decided to try out, I actually went to one of those shows, and I saw her dancing, and someone had shared her story with me, and I just thought it was absolutely amazing because she was up there for the same reason that I feel that, you know, anyone with a story like that deserved to be up there and be an inspiration for anyone. And so we got to connect a little bit, and she shared her story, and I shared mine, and it was so nice to connect with somebody on that level and have that experience. And then about a couple of years ago, she kind of connected and told me, you know, asked me a couple of questions about the cochlear, and I told her it changed my life.
Right.
And I'm just so happy that she's continuing hers.
Yeah, and what's great is it was 2007 that she was a Cowboys cheerleader, and I wrote about her in Dallas Cowboy Weekly, which later became Dallas Cowboy Star magazine. And for several years after that, people would either email or ask, you know, hey, whatever happened with Christina? And so this past fall, last spring, was our final edition of Dallas Cowboy Star magazine, our final weekly one. We still have the end of the season, and we have the cheerleader swimsuit issue, and we have the draft preview and the training camp preview. But it was the last one that was going to be printed and mailed out. And I thought, you know, after writing for it for like 18 years, my final article, my final sideline column is going to be on my favorite story. So I got in touch with Christina. And just to let everybody know, she is now a nurse.
Really?
She's got a daughter. Her daughter's 3. Actually, her daughter's probably 4 now. But can you imagine making it through college, being a profession, you know, a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, a Dallas Cowboy rhythm and blues dancer, but she got through nursing school. Right. But when she got the cochlear implant, they were able to hook up a deal with the stethoscope, and she could actually hear the heartbeat of her patients.
That's amazing.
And I want to say one more thing about Christina and bring you in on it. And one thing, she really enjoyed being in the emergency room, being a surgical nurse. But she couldn't do it for very long because in surgery, the doctors and nurses are wearing masks. And so she couldn't read the lips because they were wearing masks. And so she switched over to neonatal and all that. And she said something that really touched my heart. And to be honest, it made me cry when she told me. But she said, I love being that because with the babies, they don't judge you. They don't know that you had any kind of impairment. And so I was hoping, Taylor, that you could share some things growing up. Did you ever experience anything growing up that was tough that you used to inspire people, young people now?
So that being said, I did go through a couple of times where I felt like I was being judged, but it was never purposefully, and it was never intentional. And I think what happens is, you know, growing up at such a young age, kids don't understand right away. And but I did a great job of hiding it with my hair, and I did a great job of acting. And I honestly, and I think that's why I got into dancing, because what happened was, you know, kids would find out and then they see me dancing, and it was like kind of like oh wow, you know, it's like oh my
hasn't
God.
Stopped her.
Yeah, and it's like it's not saying I was cool after I could dance, you know, not, and everyone feels that way, you know, if you can dance you're cool, but not in that sense. But it was almost kind of like kids kind of gave me that, oh well, if she can do this, she's no different than me.
Right.
And it wasn't. And I think that's what happened. My parents raised me to understand that if someone looks at you differently, it's not because, it's intentionally or, it's just because people don't have, the experience of meeting someone like that. And if you give them any reason to treat you any differently, they will treat you differently. And so I feel like, growing up, I didn't take life too seriously, and so any experience I ever had, there were a couple times, of course I'd come home and, be sad about it, but the next day I had a smile on my face and was just grateful for where I was. Yeah.
Yeah. So what kind of reaction do you get when people find out your story? Surprise or
absolutely surprised. I think what's funny is I will talk to someone, and I normally don't tell people right away, and I'll be talking to them, and you get that question, where are you from, because of my accent, or they kind of do the head with the lean, and so it's so funny because after I say, oh, this is nice, and they were like, oh my gosh, I would have never guessed that. And that's what I like to do, is when I get up there and dance with everyone else, and I love them finding out afterwards, because it does not faze me, not one bit.
Yeah. And now, and you have taken your passion and your love for dance, and now it's your career.
Yes.
Choreographer.
Yes.
So the Rhythm and Blues Dancers is just a part of it. Tell everybody what about your career and what you've been able to do in the world of dance.
Yeah, I started teaching at 16, and I didn't know that I would carry on with it, but I decided that I wanted to teach and be a choreographer, and I'm a self-employed choreographer, and I go all over Texas, sometimes out of Texas, to choreograph for dance teams, studios, drill team, and it's such a pleasure doing it, because same situation, I teach the kids, and then afterwards they find out that I'm hearing impaired, or I'm deaf, and they know that I have the cochlear implant, and it actually, their eyes lit up, and they're just so inspired, because everyone has their own story.
Right.
And I think it pushes them to realize that, whatever you have going on, you can still push through.
What a beautiful testimony you have, and the platform that you have. You get to go and work with these young children, adolescents, and then they, like you said, they see you and they're like, wow, if she can do it, I can do it. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And what does it feel like on game day at AT&T Stadium when there are 95,000 people watching what you're doing?
It's incredible. I actually remember my first game, and I remember going up there and dancing on stage and coming back down, and I looked at Jenny Durbin-Smith, and I was like, this is awesome. It's really loud, but this is awesome. And it's an incredible experience, and I nothing beats that kind of experience, having that. But it's super loud, but when they make that music super loud for hip hop, and it's awesome.
Now, you say it's super loud. Now, is that like a challenge that you have to face with your implant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the biggest thing with the cochlear implant, we hear all sounds now, but because the human mind is equipped to ignore certain sounds to be able to hear the person in front of you, we have the challenge of trying to understand what the person is saying in front of us while there's other sounds going on. And so the cochlear obviously is continue to improve their stuff, and I actually right now have a cochlear that actually can figure out what kind of situation I am. I'm still in the process of figuring it out, but it's so much better than the past cochlears.
You know what we need is a husband implant for our husbands, so that they hear the part of the conversation that we really need them to hear.
Yes.
Because you know how men are; they have selective hearing. I'm sorry, guys, but it's true.
I'm going to put in a word that never happens.
Yeah, that's our producer, Douglas Barraclough. Hey, I'm friends with your wife, Valir, and I know for sure, Douglas, that you have selective hearing as well. A couple of things with the Rhythm and Blues Dancers, in addition to game day, of course, they've been part of the big holiday celebrations here at the Star, and our last one is this coming Friday night. Friday night, the 22nd?
Yes.
So that's really a cool thing. But Then you have auditions in the spring. Can you tell people about your audition process last year? And we may have some dancers out there who are inspired by your story today, who may want to try out this coming year.
Obviously you can check us out if you are interested in trying out for the Rhythm and Blues. We have a website on the Dallas Cowboys website about our spring audition, and the audition is in late April, and it's a 3-day audition. The first audition, semifinals, and then the finals. And then you go into training camp. If you do make it that far, you go into training camp in June. And it's about a month training camp, and then at the end of June you find out. And my experience, it was very nerve-wracking, but it was also not only challenging, but it was also really fun to see how much I grew from the first day of audition to at the end of training camp. And it was so rewarding when Jenny actually surprised us by doing a social media where, we got asked questions to challenge ourselves in front of a camera, and sure enough, the teleprompter said, you had, read that you had made the Dallas Cowboys Rhythm and Blue.
Oh, wow. How cool is that?
And that's how we found out. And so it's for anyone, especially if you don't make it the first time. It's such a great experience, and it pushes yourself. It really does. And so I recommend anyone to try out if they're interested.
Yeah, and the finals, I don't know if it'll be, again, the case this year because things are going to be different with the draft, but in the past, the finals have actually been part of the draft night party out at the stadium. How was that? So really, even before you found out you made the squad, you were performing in the stadium.
Yes, and I think that it's going to be so different this year. I think it's going to be an even bigger crowd. It's going to be even more excitement. So I'm very interested to see.
Yeah, and the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, I know that they rehearse on weeknights and things, but what kind of hours are you guys putting in during the season, the Dallas Cowboys Rhythm and Blues dancers?
So we do put a good amount of hours in rehearsing and stuff, and we do Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays, and we do I want to say anywhere from 3 to 4 hours per night, and we're always doing new dances at each game, and so we always want to keep our game days very different at each time we do it. And not only do we do dances, but we also do other stuff, other performances, other appearances, and so we spend a good amount of hours, but we always have fun when we're doing it. So.
And you're planning on coming back for a second year?
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's very awesome watching you all perform. I mean, you have tumblers and
yes, I'm one of them.
Are you really?
Yes.
Oh, you're one of the. Oh,
yes.
Did you do gymnastics?
I did.
As a teenager or as a kid?
I was a cheerleader. I was a little cheerleader. I did some tumbling. Also with the dancing background, I actually played every sport out there, and I also cheered.
Good for you.
And I love doing everything. Yeah. So yeah.
Well, we appreciate you taking time to come in. Actually, she was in San Antonio last week, doing choreography, teaching choreography. So we appreciate you making the effort to be back this afternoon to join us. And I know we asked some personal questions today, but we certainly appreciate you sharing your story and inspiring others. So thank you. That's Taylor Greer with the Dallas Cowboys Rhythm and Blue Dancers. Hey, it's a holiday show. We had to do something really special. So I hope that everyone out there in Cowboys Nation enjoyed meeting Taylor.
I certainly did. I did. Well, do you want to? We have a little bit of time.
We do have we get some time for Cowboys. Some Cowboys questions.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, everything you wanted to know about football, but we're afraid to ask. Fire away.
All right. Linda in Houston. She would like to know. Well, she would like for you to explain a touchback.
A touchback? Oh, well, a couple of different things can be touchbacks. I'm sure that you're referring to the way that the Cowboys' victory in Oakland concluded. And that is when, in this case, it was quarterback Derek Carr of the Raiders was going towards the end zone. And before he crossed the plane, before he scored, could get the ball across the imaginary plane of the end zone for the touchdown, he lost the ball. He fumbled it.
Right.
And when it fumbled forward, it was not recovered in the end zone. It went out the side. It went out of bounds.
Okay.
So because of that, it was a touchback for the Cowboys, and the ball was placed at the 20-yard line. So Derek Carr fumbling it and it not being recovered, it crossing the plane and going out of bounds through the end zone. The ball went to the other team, went to the Cowboys, and a touchback means the ball is placed at the 20-yard line. So it's a change of possession with the ball at the 20. There can also be touchbacks in the kicking game, and so in special teams, in both kickoffs and in punts. And that is when, let's say, the Cowboys are kicking off, so Dan Bailey kicks, and the ball goes into the end zone, either through the back of the end zone or out of bounds from the end zone, or the kick returner takes the ball and kneels in the end zone, does not return it. On a kickoff, the ball is placed at the 25-yard line on a touchback. If it happens on a punt, if Chris Jones punts and it goes into the end zone and is not brought out or goes through the back of the end zone or out of bounds, then the ball is at the 20.
Okay.
So it's a change of possession. It's a change. Well, they're both called touchbacks. Well, it's because it's a change of possession, and the ball is placed at the 20. When I mentioned kickoff, that it was placed at the 25, that was a rule change. Douglas, what was that, about 3 or 4 years ago, and maybe 3 seasons ago?
Yeah, I don't remember.
It used to be at the 20, but then they started placing it at the 25.
Fabulous.
Yeah,
Okay.
It was a safety rule. There's so many injuries that happen on the kick returns. But Derek Carr.
He did us a favor.
Let's give credit to Jeff Heath, the Cowboys safety, who came over and knocked the ball out of Derek Carr's hands.
Definitely.
It was definitely the play of the game, and the Cowboys are still in it. 2 games left. They need to win both games.
Right.
Starting with Seattle this Sunday, and then the finale up in Philly, and then get some help with some of the other NFC teams, but there's still a chance to win the wild card.
We can do it.
Hey, we want to wish everyone the happiest of holidays. Thank
Yes.
you for joining us this week. Taylor, we really
Thank
appreciate
you
you coming.
so much.
Thanks so
Thank
much. On behalf of our producer, Douglas Barraclough, Nikki and me, happy holidays, everyone. Thank you.
Holidays.
This has been a production of 5 Points Blue, DallasCowboys.com, and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?